on to Rules of the Arena podcast number 54. This week, I am finally back at Blind Ninja Studios. And with me in Studio B is super producer Casey.
Darn right I'm here.
And joining me again is celebrity guest sandwich maker Brian.
I am here.
Also from,
bread.
What shows are you on now?
I'm on many shows on this network.
You got the Hop and Barrel podcast, Homebrew Bound, and then the show we did before this. Department of Defense.
Jumped in 3 years ago, never left. Let's go.
It's been a minute. Grandpa Ben unfortunately can't be here this week due to some unforeseen family events, but he should hopefully be here again down the road. This week, my guest is Courtney I'm going to butcher your last name. Kramer?
It's actually pretty easy. It's Kammerer
Thornton, making her directorial debut with the upcoming film The Drop-Off. The Drop-Off is a postmodern Western noir showcasing the dark side of the American dream and the ultimate example of how apocalyptic can be necessary for real change to begin. Before we get into the film, let's get to know the director and master behind this upcoming film. Courtney, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to chat with us. Please introduce yourself to the listeners and tell us about yourself.
All right. Well, my name is Courtney Kammerer Thornton. I like to say that I'm a pictorialist. I like to paint moving pictures. I was born and raised in Simi Valley, California. It's right outside. It's the LA surrounding area is the best way to put it. Went to UC Santa Cruz for school up north and then came right back down after graduating to start working in the film industry. And I've been working in entertainment for about 10 years now. And now it's finally a time where I am going out to direct my own films after everything I have learned. So here I am today.
So when did you think that you started wanting to get into the Hollywood/film industry?
Loaded question is the way that I would put that. My dad is a fire captain and he works in LA City. So as a kid, I always went downtown with him and I would see the yellow location signs that are infamously around Los Angeles for where you would go for different productions that are filming. And I think that's really where it kind of sparked. And then taking my parents' camcorder, I can't even talk anymore. Growing up, and my sister and I would always do broadcasts, like newscasting. And I think that's really kind of what sparked it. But what was interesting is I didn't really realize going into college, I thought I wanted to work in marketing of films, that I wanted to be the person who actually helped put up the billboards. I don't know why I was thinking that, because it wasn't until I actually interned my first film out of college, which was pretty rad. It was Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master. And it wasn't until I was actually working on set that I kind of had this epiphany of, oh my God, I've had it backwards the whole time. I want to be making the movies. I don't want to be selling them. And so it was when I was about 22, about probably 9 years ago, is when I realized I want to move towards working in production and not working on that back end and actually being a part of the actual production process of making a film, because I almost didn't even realize that was an option growing up. So it took me a little bit longer to get on that horse, but so it was kind of like I was more interested in marketing first of it and then realized it was production that I wanted to do. I wanted to be the person making the movies.
What was a particular thing that you had to kind of conquer to get from point A to point B on that?
Well, don't you know that this is a meandering road in this industry?
Let's go.
I had to go a lot of different points to get to point A to point B. Mm-hmm. The first thing I think that really helped me in terms of getting my feet wet in terms of production was working for Joanne Seller. I was a producer's assistant for almost 4 years. And I met her working on The Master. She produced that movie. And so I went from interning to working as her assistant. I busted my ass on set. And working for her and her husband, who's Daniel Lupi, he's an executive producer. He does Spielberg's films and Scorsese's films. Working for them was the best film school I could have ever done. I learned everything working from them, from development, pre-production, production, post-production, all the way through marketing and distribution. So working for them was like a world-class education, because I really did get to dabble in a little bit of everything, and they gave me a lot of responsibility knowing that I could handle it. And so I think working for them was this moment that really kind of gave me the confidence, because after I kind of finished my job working underneath them, I started producing indie projects on my own and really had that confidence, because I had that because I knew every facet of the production after that, at least dabbled in everything at that point. So from getting from point A, it was like working as an assistant was the biggest thing for me to get from point A to point B in terms of being confident to go out on my own.
Is there a degree for the production side of the house, or is it more, here's a slip of paper that says I can work in this industry, but the experience really is what carries you?
To put it this way, I don't think I needed to go to college to be in the film industry. I think what I like to tell people is, if you have a good attitude, you have a good work ethic, and you write everything down, you'll go far in this industry. I work with people from all different backgrounds in terms of education as well. And it's probably one of the most diverse landscapes, I think, sometimes in terms of who your collaborators are. But do I think going to college was good in terms of, you don't need to have like that paper, to be able to like, I can do this. You don't need to take the class. But what I learned in college had nothing to do so much with film, but I worked at the telephone outreach program at UC Santa Cruz. And what that means is I was that person who called you at the end of the day asking for money from the from alumni. And I got really good at it. And I think that was a pivotal point in my life that helped me to where I am now with the drop-off film, having no problem asking people for money, because I know at the end of the day, the worst thing that I'm going to get is a no. And then you're going to get 100 no's before you get a yes. So you just keep going. You just keep kind of moving forward. So I don't think that, in terms of handing over the slip and saying that, I know what I'm doing. I think in the end, to be in the film industry, it's a good attitude, a good work ethic, showing up on time every day, and writing things down so you don't have to be asked more than once, are just really the key ingredients to getting your foot in the door and having, getting a call back. It's all about your reputation in this industry. So that's what I would say.
Just showing
the
up.
long way around for that answer.
No, we dig it. Yeah, no, I think you're saying that just showing up is a big part of it.
Yeah, definitely. And with a good attitude. I mean, you come across a lot of people in this industry. You have people who are there for the love of cinema, and you have people who are just there to collect a paycheck. And I think having a good attitude having a good attitude is really important.
Is that what it's all about, though? That it's all about the love of cinema? Like,
yeah,
you hear this a bunch.
For me, at least, it's for the love of cinema. I love what I do, and I'm very fortunate to have worked on the projects that I have. And even now, my day job is set dressing. So I went from producing to set dressing because I knew I needed to take a job that at the end of the day, I'm leaving my work at work. You can't move the other side of a couch after hours. You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
So,
the love of cinema. So I mean, like, you've made this film. Like, what makes a film great for you?
Oh God, having an emotional and physical response to something. I'll give you an example. I saw the movie. Have you seen 1917? From Sam Mendes?
Yes. Very definitely.
Okay.
In the theater on purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I saw that movie and in the theater. Thank goodness, pre-pandemic. Oh, so glad that was one of the last few that I saw. I had this emotional reckoning during watching that film. There's this one scene where the bombs are going off and you see the fire tail of the bombs in a way, and they're going through this blown up city, and how the light moves was just so overwhelmingly beautiful that I started crying. Okay, I'm not normally I can keep it together. I couldn't figure out what emotionally triggered me to cry though. Tears just started streaming, and I realized that the scene was so beautifully composed that it emotionally triggered something in me. And that's what it is to make art. When you can create that emotional response, that a physical response ends up happening. I think it's really beautiful. And that's what I am striving to create, are projects that not, that you can relate to, sure, but that hit you emotionally somewhere that you weren't kind of ready for.
So one of the ones you just mentioned was 1917. So I mean, what films have been the most inspiring beyond 1917, and were there any that were connected to the one that you've created?
Well, I like to say that, again, loaded question when you're asking a filmmaker the most inspiring film. I asked all my crew the same question recently for doing interviews with them, and everyone just was like, how dare you, Courtney? But I would say for this film specifically, yes, I've been watching a lot of Western films. I believe that if you want to tackle a genre, that you must become an expert in it so you can break all the rules of that genre.
Which
And
sorry to interrupt you. I got to give you a nod on the artwork that you sent me for the posters. that old timey Western feel to it is just fucking cool.
With mask, that was the cool thing, because you look at the mask and you're like, that chick just went into the store or something.
Yeah.
Oh wait,
she's one bandita you don't want to fuck with, Thank you. My friend Peter Stoltz is the one who actually did that artwork, and he doesn't work in film. I feel like he should. He'd be so great with doing poster concept artwork. But yeah, those posters, I wanted one that really kind of was an homage to the 1940s and 1950s Westerns that you would see, that looked like that classic Hollywood poster. And then also I was really into the Westerns of the 70s and the 70s vibe that you would get from some of the posters, where they had those really clean lines. Yeah. And the car, there's a 1974 Dodge Dart that's actually my daily driver. And originally it was supposed to be a Torino, but we wanted to put a car on the front to kind of really play with the Starsky and Hutch and this idea of like the 70s style, the 60s and the 70s style muscle cars, and how really that's just a metaphor for a modern day stallion riding through. Instead of having a horse, you have a car kind of cutting through the landscapes. So we had fun doing those posters. So Peter, I actually met while I was working at UC Santa Cruz. He was a student there, but we weren't students there at the same time. I raised money in his department is basically what I did. And so we became friends and still are friends now. But what was your question?
Yeah, sorry, you asked.
Oh, movies. One of the Johnny Guitar, Nicholas Ray's Johnny Guitar was something that I really found
inspiring, influential. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I would say.
You fight with podcasting like this, like you guys were talking, and I was thinking about my next move with this or that, and like you
it's
called
cool.
it
You're
back,
staying on top of it. I
was paying attention to you, but kind of not. So. Anyway, inspiring, influential. Yeah.
There's been a lot of movies and filmmakers that I've been inspired by, and I wouldn't say all of them come from the Western genre, although that is something that I've been studying very deeply on this project. Yeah. First one I said would be Johnny Guitar. Nicholas Ray's Johnny Guitar. Joan Crawford is phenomenal in that film, and so that was something that just the attitude and having a female lead in a time when they're in Westerns where you don't really get that very often. That film was kind of one that started the ignition for me. One that's completely off in terms of the Western genre is, I don't know if you guys have heard of the director Gaspar Noé. He's done Enter the Void. It's a great film. You should watch it. And he did this other movie called Love. And I mean this with the most respect possible. It's like the most well-lit porno I have ever watched in my life. And like you just get emotional. The sex scenes are so beautiful that you're just overwhelmed, and you're like, God, the lighting is just impeccable in the scene. That's a really beautiful, beautiful film.
Scenes.
It was great. I actually, when I first watched it, I was working in an office. I was working on the morning show on Apple. This is great. I'm loving that I'm saying these out loud. And I would watch movies while I was at work, always kind of having something, not watch them, but multitasking, right?
No,
Listening to
who hasn't had a job where they like I watch movies at my job too.
And I would literally be budgeting for our department, and I started watching that movie, and it opens with a sex scene, and I was like, oh my God, I got to turn this off my computer. This is just not safe for work right now. But that movie's beautiful in terms of just the romance scenes. I felt as though the bodies felt very like they're sculptures. And I found that really beautiful in terms of the human physique. And I'm trying to capture that in a couple of the scenes in my film, in the interior bedroom love bloom scenes.
If it's
so that was a really important one. I don't know if you guys have seen A Marriage Story. Have you guys seen that film? Noah Baumbach's A Marriage Story. It's a really interesting film because I wrote this project and I saw that movie after watching the project. It's basically a love story about divorce. It's beautiful, just the tragedy that comes with divorce, but also how beautiful it can be as well. So that was one. And then what other ones have I been watching that have been inspiring for this film? Oh, Blue Jasmine, Woody Allen's Blue Jasmine. Did you guys see that one at all?
I mean, this is going to cause many tabs on my browser here. Yeah. So we're all
I don't know about you, but I usually have like 56 tabs open, and it can be embarrassing sometimes. But I'm also like, that's my brain.
I have many tabs open. Like this, you maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but this podcast network that you're on is like extremely nerdy. So there's a lot of Dungeons and Dragons shit that's going on, and so.
That's rad. We watch Twitch at work while we're working.
Yeah, right. Awesome.
One of my bosses is a gamer, and we literally just sit there watching Twitch on our breaks. And then I just ask him all these questions, and he gets really into telling me. I'm like, yes, learning something new every day. But yeah, and then other Western films, I would say spaghetti Westerns, anything that was really coming out of Cinecittà, which is an Italian film studio. So Sergio Leone films are always a great one. Anthony Mann's A Wild Bunch is a great film. Anything from John Ford in terms of Westerns. He has what I really love
reverberating off the wooden floor and spittoon.
And a lot of the compositional shots or the compositions that he does with the landscapes. What I found, I knew I was on the right track with this film when I started not by watching movies, but I started by studying paintings from the 19th century. American painters who painted the landscape, those who kind of started going cross country and painting what they saw. One painter that I was really inspired by was Frederick Remington. And he really focused his art on painting the landscape, especially the desert, in these kind of horizontal bands and getting these really intense cuts of the painting from like the blue to the yellow bands of the landscape. And I was really inspired by that. And then I read an article about John Ford. And one of the painters he was inspired by was Frederick Remington. And I was kind of blown away that I had this connection in terms of what he was studying and what I was studying. And so it just kind of made me feel like I was going down the right path, and that I was doing something right, or I had some sort of inkling that I was doing the Western genre right, in terms of not just studying the films, but studying painters as well, because painters are just early filmmakers in their own way. It's just static. So yeah, so those are some of the films I would say kind of inspired me. Red River from John Ford. The Searchers is also a great one. Broken Arrow. I can keep going. Duel in the Sun.
I have some photographer friends. They like to joke that painting was inspired by photography, and
Oh, I like
to
that.
start a fire, in the room. But so you worked on behind the scenes on some major productions, such as you mentioned The Master, Dark Knight Rises, YouTube series Good Mythical Morning, and the web series Talents and the Dreams of Renee Sendam, if I'm saying that right.
Sendam, yeah.
I mean, that's a awesome resume there in it's by itself. But I mean, outsider looking in, Hollywood, at least the way it's portrayed through the media, seems to be like the old boys club, air quotes. Would you say that's historically accurate? And I mean, have you ever had any challenges come up, trying to get your foot in the door because of that?
Yes. However, I haven't let it stop me. And it was more situations where I realized now later on, being in the moment, you don't really, I think, I work in an industry, and the best way to put it, like, I work in set dressing. So I'm usually the only female set dresser on a team because it is traditionally
like
a job
jump into
that's
a little bit about what set dressing, like, what does that mean? Like,
let me tell you.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
tell us. That's what. Yeah, let's go.
So I work in set decoration, and what that means, and there's multiple jobs in the set decoration
Wait,
department.
you
have your
put
set
stuff in
decorator.
a refrigerator if they make like a shot in
Yes.
the. Oh,
Yep.
that's
I move
awesome.
the couch.
That's so cool.
I pick up the furniture. My God, have I eaten my way through sets sometimes?
No, I believe it. Like, it's my favorite show is WandaVision right now, and they did a shot of the refrigerator, and it was like, and they put all these products in there, and it was like, well, I know what some of them are, and some of them are show specific.
Yeah, and so set dressing, to answer your question, is everything that you see on a set that is furniture based, that's decoration, we put in there.
That's
so
huge.
I
pay attention to that a ton. Like, that's
it's
awesome.
good
Yeah,
because it builds the character world.
It does.
And
The way the colors work too, I think, are pertinent for some shows, right? And
exactly. And the set decorator works very closely with the production designer. The production designer is the one usually that's picking the colors, really creating that atmosphere and those elements. And then the decorator comes in and gives, tells them what kind of furniture, what avenue they can go to in terms of look, so to speak. And then they're the ones who are actually picking the couches, the chairs, the tables, the lamps, everything. Artwork is a huge thing in set decoration, and it can tell quite a bit of this. It can actually just further your narrative in terms of the story. So one of the shows that I'm working on right now is Apple Plus's For All Mankind. Have you guys heard of it?
We'll look into it.
Okay, it's radical. It's a space show.
You guys haven't heard of that one? What the hell?
Again,
I'm
just thankful
is
to have
fucking
internet.
Casey's doing this one, and yeah.
I mean, this
We
is
just
a
got
show
running
where I
water last
totally
week. I mean,
geek out on, where
Typical.
I started on season 2, and my boss now, shout out to Mike Mestas, he actually showed me the stages last year, and my mind was blown. It was one of those experiences where I've had a couple of them in this industry, but it's holy shit, this is why I love working in this industry and why I love what I do. Because you walk onto a soundstage and you're literally in a space station. And it just kind of blows your mind that you have all of these amazing collaborators who've made this come to life. And so I work in set dressing on that show right now. And so I'm on season 3, so I can't say anything about it. But
quick, turn off
but
recording.
it's one of those shows where you get to be a part of, you're creating these worlds, and you create these little moments for the astronauts, whether it be if they have like a bed or something like that. You're creating the notes that are from their loved ones back home, or putting the photos up. So you really are adding this last textural layer to these character worlds that make them feel real or make them feel relatable. And I think that that's just such a beautiful thing. And then again, I get to leave at the end of the day and not take my work home with me, so I can work on my projects. So it's a win-win.
Yeah. So speaking of that, like, so your own project, what made you want to jump into director of your first film? Like, what's why start in 2020, 21?
Oh God, yeah. Let me tell you about that.
Let's talk about that.
So it wasn't I always had an inkling that I had my own projects that I wanted to make, but I don't think I ever had the confidence in the past, I would say maybe 7 years. I was still producing. I came to this moment on a project where I'm not going to say which one, but I was an associate producer at this company, and I kind of hit a wall. And I was working around the clock. I was hitting 17-hour days, and I was completely unsatisfied with the content that I was working on at that point. And I remember I remember that when I came home, a bunch of pumpkin pies had fallen over in my car. I'm literally what happened. There's pumpkin pie surrounding me. I'm next to the trunk of my car. My dogs jump into my car and start eating the pumpkin pie. And I look at my husband and I was like, I think I'm putting in my 2 weeks. And I had this moment where I realized I can't be working for other people. I can't be working 17-hour days. If you want to make your own projects, you need to turn the gear going that way. You need to start walking down that path, regardless if you don't know what it looks like. The first thing you need to do is change your job. So I ended up segueing into art department, which doesn't sound usually the direction that a director would go. But I had already been producing, and so I knew all the logistics, or all the facets of production in terms of the logistical side. But I felt as though if I wanted to speak the visual language, that I needed to learn the visual language from art department, from production design, because it's the one side of the production that I didn't understand completely. So I ended up starting to work in set decoration under the art department. And probably for the past 2 years, I've been working on my own projects. And the drop off was a really interesting one, because I started with the drop off of the kids. And then as I was writing it, the past moments for the two characters kind of came into being. And then the Western aspect actually came last. It was one of those moments of, oh, holy shit, this is a modern day Western, because I started just getting into Western movies, not because I wanted to write a Western, but it wasn't until I started studying that genre a little bit more that I realized that this project was a modern day one. So yeah, it was probably the past 2 years I've been really working on my own projects. And we were originally supposed to shoot this June 2020. So
No.
yeah, right.
Production was
Actually, it was a
delayed?
total right. It was one of these moments where I realized you just decided to pursue your directing career, and a pandemic hit. And you have this moment of, you can get through it. I mean, everyone's in the same boat. Everyone's in the same place right now. It rocked my world, realizing that I wasn't going to be able to shoot my film. But I also think it was this complete blessing in disguise, because I was able to take 6 months off, not by choice, but I had 6 months to really work on this project and hone in on the characters and the cinematography and the production design. And it's completely morphed into this beautiful world that I never would have even accomplished had I shot in June. If I shot in June, it would have been very rushed. So now it's like everything's really thought out. Almost all the key players are on at this point. And all the locations we've already scouted all of the locations. So it's just like, now what it is just finally getting that last bit of funding to just be able to turn the key and just go. So yeah, and so the whole idea with this project too is I'm going to be packaging it with I do the air quotes for same thing. To package it with a feature that I have been writing, which is the drop off is a concept piece. They're two completely different worlds, but it just the concept is like, look at what we can do on this type of money. This world's even crazier. Let's do this, So the whole idea is that I would package this, and then I would be pitching it to agents first that I met while working with the big wigs. Just they're not going to remember who I am. I was an assistant, right? But I think we have some really delicious items starting out, like with the concept artwork that is just highly conceptualized already very early on, that I think it'll be a nice little package that we build to be able to get that funding for that feature film.
So for folks listening, they're going, what the hell is the drop off? What is the drop off film?
All right. So the drop off, I say, is a postmodern Western noir. And the reason why I say that is because it has multiple different aspects to it in terms of a Western. It has your traditional Western motifs in it. You have your anti-Western motifs, your Western noir, as well as different parts of or revisionist films as well. But it's a story about two parents that are two individuals meeting for the first time after their recent divorce to drop off the kids to the other parent for the weekend. And it's really a love story about love lost and moving forward, and a tale of survival of what it takes for two parents to really make it on their own, and also realize that sometimes you don't always have to stay together. It's not always right to stay together for the kids. As a product of divorced parents, I would say that it's a really relatable subject. If anyone who's grown up with divorced parents probably has their own version of their drop off with their parents, whether that be at a gas station or a donut shop, all places that I was dropped off at. But it's really interesting because it's such a relatable subject that I didn't realize how relatable was until I started having people read my script and how the characters resonated with them, and then how it sparked their own stories on what they went through. Some parents were very amicable with their divorces. I have some family members who did not have amicable parents, and what did that look like for the kids growing up? And yeah, so I would just, it's a love story about love lost and moving forward, and a tale of survival in a new day and age and what that looks like. Us obviously all struggling with the pandemic and a new normal. These individuals have to experience their own new normal as well.
So when did you start to formulate the story, and did you kind of put your own experiences or yourself into the characters or storyline of it?
Yes, a little bit. So what's really interesting is the conception of this story came from this really interesting moment where I was driving to my dad's house. He lives in Agua Dulce, which is out LA surrounding area, again, out in the desert. And it's the same highway I grew up on, going back and forth between my mom and my dad's house. And I started noticing what I called the drop-off checkpoints, where as a kid, there were certain certain moments along the trip where I knew I was getting closer and closer to my dad's or my mom's, depending on what landmarks we were passing. So one of them was the LA Aqueduct, which is very well known in LA. And just these other things where there's these certain transmission towers that go over the freeway that have these balls that hang from them, and I always thought they looked like recess handballs as a kid, or this piping system that I thought looked like a bridge for mice to go across every day for work and back home to their families. These are the things I was thinking, and those came back up. 2019, I started thinking about those moments, and I realized how beautiful the desert was. And I'd never really opened my eyes to that. A highway, again, that I had driven on hundreds of times growing up, and just kind of was just hit sideways by how subliminally charged, is what I like to say, the landscape was. And it completely reminded me, again, open the tab on your computer, Frederick Remington self-portrait. What it looked like. It was just this beautiful band of blue sky against this really golden yellow grass that was just all dead from dead desert grasses. And between the desert and thinking about those moments growing up, I started thinking about, what were my sister and I doing in the back seat? What were we wearing? My mom happened to always put us in the same outfits, drove my sister crazy, but I loved it. And then I kind of realized I had this oh shit moment. It wasn't just me and my sister in the car. There was also a parent in the car. It's, just as kids, you're just kind of in your own world, right? And my parents made sure we were in our own world in that back seat with our games and everything, and pillows and blankets, making sure we were set up for the drive. And I never even thought twice about what it was like for my mom and my dad in the front seat to have to drop us off every other weekend, and what that would have meant for a single parent. So that's kind of where the seeds of inspiration came from with the drop off. Was I wanted the story to be about a single parent after divorce, and what that looked like for these moments of dropping off the kids to the other parent. And so that's really just those seeds that kind of sparked the rest of the imagination for me. And then just from there, through the writing process, the characters completely morphed and changed into their own creatures and their own beings. And I think that was really exciting to see how that process came about, that it did start with the little seeds of my family, but completely changed into their own beings, which I liked.
And on your website, the dropofffilm.com.
Oh God, you're on the website.
No. Brian might have it in a tab here, but the film's described as a love letter to the new genre we call, I'm going to butcher the hell out of this.
Ruinisme amor.
I was going to say I'm pretty good at reading stuff.
Yeah.
You're a simian.
What is the new genre, and who created it, or are you on the spearhead of this?
I created it. Thank you very much. No. So yes, I feel it's something that I came up with for this film, taking it back to 1917. There's that one scene that I was telling you that just completely emotionally triggered me. And I got really obsessive about it. And I started to go down this wormhole thinking, who was Sam Mendes inspired by with this shot? It's a painter. I felt like he was inspired by a painter for that. So I started doing my research in terms of artists around that time. Again, 18th or 19th century leading up into the 20th century, it's 1917. So he was probably looking at art from the 19th century, the 1800s. And I came across this painter named Hubert Robert. And he is a painter from the 19th century. And he painted these paintings that he specifically left unfinished on purpose. And they were all of cities in ruins, as what if scenarios though. So if you had the Louvre in Paris, if it was demolished by, if it was war torn, for instance, he drew that and he would paint it. And he would always kind of leave them unfinished as a memento that for his artwork. And the Academy, I want to say it was the Academy where he went in Paris, but he was a student at a painting school and at an art school. And he had a genre of painting named after his artwork, and it was called Ruinisme, which means the aesthetics of ruins, because again, he painted cities in ruins, and they deemed a genre after him. And then I had that moment again of like, holy shit, add love to the end of it, and that's my movie. And I realized that if I just said Ruinisme amor, for my film, it's the aesthetics of love ruined, and that's my movie. There are films that showcase the beauty of love lost. I don't think there's been a term put to it though yet. So for me, I definitely coined the genre, the term of it. I got really wild with this project, going down these wormholes. But some projects.
I'd just like
to
show that we have another scoop on a new movie genre. This for the record out there, it's on the internet, it's official now.
You guys heard it first. Besides everyone who's read my website. Right. Just kidding. But yeah, I felt like it was very important to come up with some sort of name for this genre, because there are films who do display the beauty of tragic love. Blue Valentine is one, Like Crazy, A Marriage Story. All of them talk about how beautiful love lost can be, but there's no really genre for it. They call it drama, So I think that it was really important for me to put a label to this, just because of everything I was studying. And I just found it incredibly beautiful, the idea of Ruinisme amor, and just found that these characters, it just made sense with the two characters and what they went through.
Can you still hear me? Looks like we have a little frozen screen here. Give it a sec, try to... internet connection is unstable on my side.
I mean, things are looking okay. Everything might be a Wi-Fi issue. Wi-Fi looks okay.
Oh, Zoom just closed on me.
Yeah, and I just lost connection on this machine. What the
1
hell?
second, folks. Sorry.
Wow. Actually, yeah, they can still hear you.
Yeah, I was gonna see. You want to pause?
Twitch is still up.
You want to pause recording on at least the audio file?
Yeah.
Those on Twitch, we will get back to you as soon as we can. We're just trying to work some technical issues.
Oh, there it goes.
There we go.
It's back up.
Hey, look at that.
I love technology.
All right, let's try this
Hey,
again.
there
Can you
we
hear me?
go.
Is that better?
Yes. Sorry.
I know. I thought you were good for so long.
So you were saying, sorry to. Nope. Now we're.
I looked up Hubert Robert.
Day. Did you see some of his artwork? Were you just so impressed?
It's it
By him?
basically just no, it's fine. It's still choppy. Just basically, it's like semi-fictitious, picturesque depictions of ruins in Italy and France. Like I like that. That's funny.
I know absolutely nothing about art, so I mean, it looks cool as hell. I couldn't give you any good adjectives to describe it, but I'm a half step away from this knuckle-dragging mongoloid.
I think it's frozen
Yeah,
again.
it's frozen.
Yeah.
You have an Ethernet cable? We can.
There's literally one right next to you.
It's not.
I just unplugged the Ethernet bit. That's USB. That's Ethernet. You got this.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Try this again.
All right, how's
Hey,
that?
there we go.
Okay. All right. You know, I switched my Wi-Fi network. Let's see if that solved all problems.
Yeah, and I'm now hardwired into the internet here, so we should be good in theory. This Brian's not gonna be on camera because I don't have enough slack here.
Hold on.
Thank you, Brian.
Unless here, I can move over.
Now it's like a minute.
So you searched Hubert Robert then? Yeah,
Yes.
that's the
Yeah,
last
for
thing
sure.
I heard.
I was just
All
saying
right.
that I know absolutely nothing about art painting, at least, but I mean it looks cool as hell. It's just I don't know how to describe it in an intellectual manner.
You know, I'm a big art history fan. And I wasn't until after college, I started taking art history classes just for fun, and just kind of my world opened up tremendously in terms of filmmaking because of all the paintings that I studied and still do. So I always go down these wormholes with painters and seeing what they're inspired by and everything. So Hubert Robert, if I ever meet Sam Mendes, I'm just letting you know that's my question to him. It's like, were you inspired by Hubert Robert for this one specific scene? I need to know.
So I'm just curious now. Casey's dying to ask. Walk us through the pipeline to get a film off the ground, because I know Casey's got a few storyboards in the can from the other show, Department of Defense, where we pitched some great ideas. I would say
There's
some
some
grade
horrible.
A blockbuster films.
I would not call them
Horrible
great
shit.
even a little bit.
No, that's the gag, is to make them as bad as possible.
And there's a market for that.
Yeah.
Shout
True.
out to Sci-Fi Channel. I mean,
Hey, I like the Sci-Fi Channel. Take that back. I think that's a really interesting question because there are so many different avenues and different ways to get a movie made today. What the best advice that I received and still take to heart is what Daniel Lupi once told me. IMDb him. Look at his street cred. he said, if you want to make a movie, go make a movie. You don't need to have the big budget, says the guy who works on 150 to $250 million films, but you don't need to you have an iPhone, go out and go make one. And it's true. And you can see today how there are quite a few projects being made as simply as on an iPhone. But it really, I think for me, starts with doing your research and putting together a package. And I say that in a way because it's sure you're going to pitch people the project at some point, but you need to be able to pitch yourself and know your own information. So in terms of a movie, it depends on what type of movie you're going to make. Are you going to make a short film, or are we talking about a feature film?
If Gordon's going to make it, it's going to be short.
Yeah, it's going to be really short.
And I'll jump out of the camera.
The one
because he's gonna need me and also Casey to help him make this film.
The film ideas we've come up with were craft beer fueled and maybe some bourbon in there. Those shows are kind of hazy. But I mean, we pitched the idea of some feature film actor and actresses' names. Whether or not we could throw the budget together for that's questionable at best, but we'll say short film.
What I like to say in terms of a film is have your ideal budget and have your bare bones budget. Sure, there's a world. I mean, The Dreams of Renee Sundam is a really good example. That was a feature film that I produced where we had I think it was $3.5 million budget, and we put the package together. We did our marketing research. We find films that are similar to your film in terms of the genre, look at their budget, see if you can find out how much money they made, which is very, very hard to find these days because, first of all, if we're talking post-pandemic, you can't even count theatrical release money, and theatrical releases aren't happening, and that's usually the only money you can find in terms of what a movie made. Like you can't find what Netflix paid for a movie, and you can't find all these other streaming sites, so it's very hard to pinpoint how much a movie made. But it starts with finding films that are similar to yours, seeing what their budgets were, seeing if you can find out how much money that movie made, and then starting to build your cast list as well. The problem with here's what I find very difficult with casting. It's a catch-22 situation. You need to have money to get a cast member, but you need a cast member to get money. So you kind of find yourself in this situation where if you don't have money, you can't approach cast, and if you don't have any well-known other people as executive producers.
Yeah, you hear about those like, oh, I'll take less money because I'm a bigger name type of situations. Is that prevalent? I mean, is that the catch-22 you're talking about, or?
Well, if you're as someone like me who's no one technically in the industry, sure, I've been an assistant for some big wigs. There's no doubt about it. But I was an assistant. I'm not the person who I was assisting, that we struggled on The Dreams of Renee Sundam to find good cast for that film. Okay. But what we did too is we started out with our ideal budget of $3.5 million, and we went to American Film Market. We pitched it. It was a really good experience to kind of see what people are, the questions that they ask you on the spot, and how well you really do need to know your film. I remember being thrown off when someone was like, "What's your VFX budget?" And then I just was like, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I couldn't think of it, even though we had that budgeted. But it was really interesting because we ended up having our ideal budget, like I said, and then our bare bones budget. And our bare bones budget ended up being $45,000, which meant hardly anyone was getting paid, stripped down crew. Casting was no names pretty much, except for the small supporting roles. We were able to get some like Joe Grafazzi and Steve Easton. These were family friends to our directors. This is the only reason why we were able to get them.
See,
But
Casey, people in Hollywood aren't getting paid. Stop busting my balls.
I'm in Wisconsin, man.
well, it's one of the things with my short film, which I made that I'm very, very adamant about, is making sure that every single person who's working on this film gets paid. I've worked on too many short films that people are like, it's a passion project. Yeah, of course, we can all start with one passion project and do one for free, but you shouldn't be doing 7 for free. So all the people that are working on my film, it's why I'm trying to go for a stretch goal, because there's still 2 people that I would like to make sure I have money for, be able to hand them a check, even though they've already done the work for free. It'll feel really good being able to pay them. But if you're doing a short film, I would say do a Kickstarter. The best way, and the reason why Kickstarter is so great, or any type of crowd funding platform, is because you have a built-in audience. And that means the 150 people that are backing your film are 150 people who are going to be willing to either watch your film or buy it when it's done. And that you have already like an audience championing your project. And I think that's the most important thing. And also being able to show to potential investors for perhaps your next short film or a feature film that you have in the works, that you can raise money. Because the hardest thing about a film is convincing someone that this very expensive art form that we're doing is worth the money, that you can that their investment will turn profitable. Because at the end of the day, like, yes, I like to say that I live for cinema and I want to make art every day. And I'm very fortunate that I have that perspective on how I think of my job, but I have to be able to make money back for people too, because this is a business at the end of the day. So right. Kickstarter is a great way to show people that, hey, I can build an audience. Hey, I can raise money and have a platform that forever exists with your successful campaign. But it is not easy being a Kickstarter campaign manager for a month. I'll tell you that.
I mean, how does that even start with your pitch to a production company or investors? I mean, I've been in sales customer service, but on a much smaller scale. If you're approaching a big name, Paramount, Universal, whoever the case may be, how do you even start that conversation?
It's hard. It really depends. Because in a perfect world, you would know someone who knows someone who knows someone who can slip your script in front of that someone. So it's all, for what I've learned, it's a lot of word of mouth and getting people to champion your film, which, fingers crossed, this film is done and I can package it with my feature and I can talk to the producers I used to work with and be like, yo, champion my film for me, be my executive producer. But this shit's got to be good if I do that. I got to pull that favor. If I'm going to pull that favor, then I have to make sure that what I'm putting in front of them is going to make them look good. But it's hard if you haven't worked in the industry and haven't made those connections, because sending blind emails can be tough. It's something you just got to get over, to that fear of sending that email, which is probably why I like to have the undo feature on my Gmail account, because I constantly will undo an email and be like, no, you just got to send it, but I'll sometimes undo it just because of that. But there are companies out there that really let people know that everything that comes across their desk will be read or will be watched. So I know Alamo Drafthouse, their distribution company, Tim League, he said that one time. He works with Paul Thomas Anderson, but also I watched him do a film independent talk, and he said that he was just like, any film that comes in, it does get watched. So there are distribution companies who do that, but if you're trying to find financing, there's the long running joke that ask a dentist. Because they always say a dentist wants to have that street cred as a movie producer, and they're technically a doctor, so they should have some good money. So I'll tell you, I definitely pitched my dentist. I didn't get an email back, but but there are a lot of different ways to start that. But I would say for any film, start with a crowdfunding campaign, whether it just be for your initial injection of cash into your project, just to be able to show that you have some sort of presence online, because it's just so important to show that you have an audience, which is why, you know, social media is really important too. I like to say it's that necessary evil, because I struggle to I'm constantly up.
I think we all struggle with the social media.
Yeah,
issue.
yeah, because they really do look at the number of followers you already have before you even make the movie or after the movie, and see how engaged your audience is. And
any of those algorithms or those metrics seem completely impossible when you were saying earlier about being a Kickstarter manager for 30 days and you're still trying to run the socials, you know?
yes, and it's
this whole
been
deal.
I've been working on the Kickstarter since November.
Mhm.
So to put into context how long I've been working on the campaign, every single week I've been chipping away at making sure that we had the full package of what you need to have.
Suddenly you're producing a film lady job is doing the social medias job.
Yeah.
It's
So I'm the social media, I'm my own social media intern, you know?
Yeah,
Which is hard, because what it's done is it's completely, which is why I'm trying to get the last $3,000 as quickly as possible, but momentum's really slowed after we hit the initial 20K. But because I just want to be working on the film.
right.
And it's, you know, I love talking about it. I love doing interviews because I think it's a really powerful tool to be able to tell people about your project and the art that you're trying to create. But running the campaign is really taking up a lot of time. And so I'm just kind of like, just let's get the last $3,000 so I can flip back over into production mode so I can keep going down the path of making the film. But it is a really gratifying experience, because you see, what I find so beautiful about Kickstarter is it's always the people you least expect that are going to donate and donate
Right
big.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah. And it's the ones that you most, you put all your eggs in some basket and in one basket, thinking that certain people are going to donate, and they don't. So it's this really kind of beautiful thing that happens, though, where you rely on some and you have to realize you can't rely on them. And you have these other people who are just coming out of the woodworks to come and support your project. And you're like, thank you. You know, you just realize that with any movie, especially today, that it really does take a village to raise a Cinna baby, is what I call it, you know? And our Cinna baby is now a Cinna toddler, you know, it's walking. But it is true, especially with indie film. You have so many people who help you, and it's a collaborative process, whether they are on the creative team or they are your audience engaged. It is quite literally a family that you're creating around this project. And I find that just absolutely magical with filmmaking.
Totally. So what's your stretch goal right now?
25K. And so we hit 20,000 in 5 days, guys. In 5 days. I was shocked by it. And now we're trying to do 25K. There's a couple things in the budget. There are 3 people I would like to put numbers next to their names. And also for costume doubles, because we have a Western scene that their outfits will get pretty dirty. And my costume designer is like, how did we not budget for doubles? So I'd like to do that. And we're at 22K right now, though. We just surpassed 22 today. So we're about 2,900, I want to say, away from hitting our goal. And I definitely think it's going to take all 19 days, the rest of the days, because they're kind of trickling in. But that's kind of what happens with Kickstarters. You hit your initial goal and you just got to keep asking people for money. And so that's what I'm doing every day, just constantly going through my contacts. All of a sudden I'll think of a new person being like, oh yeah, I haven't emailed them yet. Let's just try it out. And sometimes it ends up being really great. Sometimes, you know, people, especially right now, it's been extremely difficult asking for money. You're asking people who've been out of work for more than 6 months in a pandemic for money. So we knew what we were going to be up against was a lot. And which is why I'm even so much more grateful than I ever thought. What's up, dog? You can come out. Come
on. we had been expecting this the entire time.
Come on, baby girl.
There we go.
And I was
my old lady. Hold on one second. Let me just actually.
That's okay, yeah.
Come here, Mama. Come here. Come on. Good girl. There we go. Okay. And she flipped off my light. She's my old lady. Oh, she's so cute. I call her my old Bessie. She hates going on walks now. She does. I gotta like take her out of that. She's 12. She's my pitch. She's so cute. But yeah, it's so, you know, in terms of making a movie, you got to know, you got to be your own expert in your field first with a movie, and make sure you know exactly what the story is that you're pitching. Building that audience is very important before you even get to shooting. Kickstarter or any crowdsourcing or crowdfunding campaign is always a great way to start, just because it really helps you, keeps you motivated and pumped too, and makes you stay on top of updating people and letting people know where you're at. So then they're stoked when you get around to shooting and when you're done with the movie, you know? So that's what I would say, Casey. And if you guys ever need help doing a Kickstarter campaign, I could help you guys and tell you what you. It's a lot of work for a successful campaign.
We're
It's
not
a lot
gonna
of
make
work.
a movie about.
Well, we pitched The Rock and Charlize Theron.
It's a bunch of nerds.
yeah,
sitting
we'll
in
I
the-
don't
we'll
even
get into
remember,
the-
man. We were
yeah,
so drunk.
We'll
it
get into the
doesn't
pitch
matter.
after we hit the record button. So I was perusing your Kickstarter, and I saw you have some really cool reward tiers on there, and I saw for only $1,000 you can get your name thrown into the credits. Is that still an option?
Yeah.
Is it
So
also to shamelessly plug a podcast.
I love the prizes, and they're very special to me. I made sure to put a cinema cowgirl on every single one of them. I really put a lot of thought into them, because with Kickstarter, it's all about the incentives. You got to have some good ones, you know? So I tried to really make them as personable or personalized as possible. And everything on there, even like the keychain, that's going to be a hardcore insert shot that we have in the car. And if you get that level, I think it's $75, you get that same keychain that you're going to see in the movie, you know, or the bandana. I think it's the $100 level. Tommy, actually, our main character, one of the leads, Tommy, wears a bandana, and it's really rad because it has little transmission tower robots all on it. And Tori St. George, who's one of my graphic designers, she designed the whole bandana. So each one of these things have already been made with so much love, and I'm excited that we can have them as part of our Kickstarter incentives. So yeah, donate $1,000. You'll get that credit in the film, no problem.
Let's go. You heard it right here. Like, donate $1,000.
And if you guys come out to California, I'll give you a cruise in one of my classic cars. I drive a 1974 Dodge Dart, but my husband has a 1972 VW bus, and both of those cars will be in the movie. Let's just say we really take a risk driving in traffic in old vehicles.
I feel like we'd get to smoke pot in the van. And so I'm into that. The
There's
rest
just
of
a
you.
plethora out here as well.
So now that your funding is secured and the production green lights, you know, it has a green light, what are the next steps for you and the team?
Well, every department is moving at this point, and has been, which is really great. But what it means is we'll actually start to be able to pull the trigger on purchases. So, and one of the biggest things right now is casting. I just cast my lead this past week, so I'll be doing this is the first time I'm announcing it. But my lead's been cast, and I'm very excited about that. And so we'll need to finish casting Tommy and then the two girls that are supposed to be in the movie as well. So that takes precedence, is getting those people locked in. And we will also be starting to do set deck purchases. So we have everything kind of mapped out in terms of what we need to buy for these worlds. So it's just a matter of, once we have the funding for it, just actually starting to hit purchase on all of those items. And my production designer, I'll be able to give her budget finally for some of the art installations that she's doing. We're pulling off some really rad stuff for this project. We have this huge floral arch that's going over the bed. I don't know if you watched my Instagram stories, but I've been saving flowers for the past year and a half. So I have a whole underground storage that's just all flowers, and it's amazing. It's probably the coolest thing ever. So I need to get her money so she can start doing the expendables, so she can make those purchases to actually assemble it. And we're doing this land band installation is what I'm calling it, my homage to Frederick Remington, as well as the Vasquez rocks, which is what I grew up around, and doing this really interesting installation inside the house that will mimic the landscape outdoors. Locking in the location, actually being able to give them the deposit check so we can hold the dates, which will be a big thing for us. So yeah, all these different kind of moving parts to get the production going. That's the biggest part about having the green light for that. Everyone gets paid pretty much during production, so I have a little bit of a cushion still with that. But it's the purchases that are the big thing, because we need to make sure that we have them in time before shooting, and the location.
You're doing a Western film too, like noir, of course, and so some costumage is probably a good option, right?
Yes, and because it is a Western noir with psychologically complex characters, we have these costumes that are going to be, it's a mix between Western and haute couture is the best way to put it. We're trying to make them highly stylized Western costumes. So that's actually, costumes is going to have a bigger budget than most short films would, because of that daydream that we have, that are these interesting outfits that they're wearing, and which will be taking a little bit more money, unfortunately. And unfortunately, we want to make sure that I want to make sure my costume designer's happy is the best way to put it. So, but the thing is, with Western costumes and the environment that we're working in, we're shooting at this place called Vasquez Rocks. It's pretty awesome. It's very well known for classic Hollywood, I would say. A lot of productions have filmed there, and but it's out in the desert. So one of the biggest things with the costumes for that scene is we need to have doubles, which means that we have to buy multiples of each costume. So when they get dirty, we can put them in another thing, because it's not like we have a.
You were like, yeah, we need to have doubles. Like, what does that mean?
You have literally double of every part of the costume. So you'll have 2 shirts, 2 jackets, 2 pairs of pants. You basically have 2 sets of everything.
Is that like like two people have to be out there to deal with that kind of situation, or like, how does that work?
Well, yeah, in theory, you would have more than one costumer on set. You'd have multiple key costumers, is what they're called, to be able to help with the costumes, then changing someone out of them. And the thing is with a short film, on a big feature, you have a huge costume trailer that has all the costumes in it. You have a washer and dryer normally in this trailer too, so you can wash everything on the job, but we don't have that luxury. So we have to actually buy doubles of everything.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, because one thing will age in a sense, and some of the things you might want to look a little bit darker than others. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And also they get dirty when you're out in the desert, and we have one character that's in all black and the other character is in all white. Yeah. So it's like the person wearing the white, like after we do the chasing scenes, we can't have them sit down and look all completely dirty in terms of the next scene that we roll into. Like, so you got to have doubles. Yeah. And those actually get really pricey. So, so that's a big thing too, that we're adding to the budget in terms of our stretch goal. And I really want to get a dolly rental. That's the big thing. I think and that's usually, you can get them for like $1,500 for a weekly rental. But if you get a dolly, you also need a dolly grip. So you need a person to work the dolly. So those 2 things are coming out of our stretch goal if we hit our stretch goal as well.
So by dolly, just little 2 wheels with handles on top, and you can move your refrigerator with?
I was thinking a skateboard. No, I'm just kidding. I would love to get like a JL Fisher, like one of the nice ones. But again, with that comes a bigger price tag. So if we hit our stretch goal, it's something that I think that we can definitely finagle. And then I'll also be able to afford having to paying a dolly grip for the days that we need them on set as well. Discounted rate, of course, if I really can work it.
So when do you start officially shooting, and how long do you have before the project needs to be all said and done?
So Kickstarter ends March 10th. We start, and then I have a month of prep before that. We start shooting our dates right now, if all cast are available for those days, April 12th through the 20th. It's 7 days of shooting. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. And hopefully I'm already working with my editor to lock in a post schedule. I'm very organized in terms of scheduling. It's the only way that you can stay on top of everything for a short film. All said and done, I would like the project done the beginning of August, which is a very ambitious goal, but definitely something that we can do. So, and the reason being is we have all the film festivals that we would actually like to apply to. And the first one being Sundance, and Sundance starts, I think, August 7th is the application period when it opens.
So do you have a release date set for this time for the film?
Well, the release date will depend on what festivals we get into. A lot of the times with, if we're going to obviously try for the top tier film festivals first, and then we'll move to our second tier and our niche tiers after that. But if we do, hypothetically, in a perfect world, we get into Sundance, and and then our release date would be based on when we actually screen at the festival, because a festival like that requires us to have a worldwide the worldwide release at their festival. So, but if we don't get into top tier, basically what we'll do is we'll probably do a cast and crew screening before that, hopefully by the end of this year. And a perfect world, which if you donate $150, you get that as part of your incentive is our cast and crew screening, which my goal is to do a drive-in. And in a perfect world, it would be at Vasquez Rocks. So you would have the screen in front of the rocks and just this really idyllic location. It's just amazing landscape behind you as you watch the film. So I just got to figure out the logistics of how that would work. Does everyone have their own Bluetooth speaker in the car? How does that work?
So Casey, when are we going to California?
Let me know.
So, being a short film, are you going to be doing nationwide release on the silver screen, or what's the game plan from there?
I would like to get it distributed by a streaming company. There's companies like Shorts International, which is big for streaming, but I don't know what a world looks like with a short film for nationwide theatrical release. I'm curious as to I'm kind of waiting to see what it looks like in a post-pandemic world for a theatrical release. And it also depends on if it gets distributed. If it gets distributed, or if I have to self-distribute. If I self-distribute, I would like to I'll do a premiere screening at a drive-in. That's not the cast and crew one, in Los Angeles, and have it be a hometown screening. But that is going to morph and change over these next couple months, because right now, people would say that once streaming services were coming out, that it was the Wild West, but now it's even more so in terms of getting a film distributed, because it's so different with the added layer of the pandemic being involved. So we're kind of waiting the next couple months, and I have our other executive producer has been doing distribution research and has their list of all the different distribution companies that we're going to be hitting up with this project at some point. And majority of them are streaming companies, because there is a world for short films now, which is really nice. Not so much, I think, in theaters, unless you're kind of pairing it with another film, a feature film before it. But as our attention spans grow smaller and smaller, there is a world for short films now. But no matter what, it will be distributed, whether it be another company doing it or us doing it in-house with my production company, aka me, then we'll do it that way. But no matter what, this film will see the light of day, which I'm really excited about.
And self-distribution isn't you just selling it DVDs out of the back of a car. I mean, it's
oh, totally. Venice Boardwalk, trunk open. You guys want some,
I think all of us, at least,
No,
I assume Brian's been to Warped Tour, and there's always that one band.
I've been around
CDs.
the block, Gordon.
Warped Tour. Oh, that brings back memories.
But for anyone that's listening and they want to help out with Kickstarter, where can they find it, and when is the exact campaign end?
So you can go to Kickstarter.com and you search The Drop Off, and we're the first film that pops up. You can also go to our website, thedropofffilm.com, or you can go to our Instagram page, and in our bio, we have the link right there as well to go straight to our Kickstarter campaign. Campaign ends, I want to say the 12th of March. So we actually ended up pushing it back a couple days, but 12th of March, right around there is when it ends. So there's still some time. But the earlier the donation, the quicker we get to our stretch goal, the faster we can move towards moving back over, switching gears over to production, which is the goal. Because I'm not going to do another stretch goal after $5,000. That would just be time not well spent. If I already have a budget that's good and ready to go, it'll be fine.
And where, of course,
It's fine, guys. It's fine. I'm totally fine. No kidding.
You're all good. Yeah.
And
No, I hear you.
where, of course, can folks find the
Kickstarter
drop off on social media and on the internet?
So we have a Twitter and an Instagram page as well, or an Instagram account. Both of them are The Drop Off Film. So you can find us both there. And again, if you go to our website, thedropofffilm.com, you can go and click on the Instagram and it'll take you right to there as well. But The Drop Off Film is our handle. And you can see all the lovely fixins there.
And of course, if there's somebody listening and they're on the fence of going into the film production or as a career, or maybe want to get behind the camera themselves, what advice would you offer them?
For every 100 no's, you get one yes. So don't stop, because that's the one thing that I think is really important, is that in this industry, you hit roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. But if you keep going, you will eventually get there. So that's what I would say, is don't give up, because if you can get past the no's, that's the easy part, is when you get past, when you can just let it roll off and you just keep moving forward. So for every 100 no's, there's a yes. So don't give up when the first person says no, and the 17th no, and the 87th no.
Well, thank you again, Courtney, for taking time to be on the show, and thank you for everyone for taking the time to listen in. This show would not be possible without you. Many of you have asked how can you help out. There's a few things you can do. First off, head over to Apple Podcasts, Audible, or Facebook. Leave a 5-star review. And secondly, tell your friends, family, coworkers, and convince them to check it out. Lastly, if you'd like me to help bring new episodes out, head over to patreon.com/rulesofthearena. I have a little tip jar set up there just for $1 per month. That's all I ask. And if you click on the link in the episode notes, you can check out the new merch store. And in there, the Hammer and Axe collection is available now for a limited time. If you want to keep in touch with new episodes and guests, follow the show on Facebook and Instagram, both at Rules of the Arena Podcast. Don't forget to follow the show on Twitch, where you can tune into the conversations live. Head over to twitch.tv/Rules of the Arena. If you missed the live stream but you still want to check out the video broadcast, you can find past recordings on YouTube. Just search for Rules of the Arena Podcast. And if you'd like to get hold of me directly for any comments, concerns, or would like to be a guest on the show, please shoot me an email to gordon@blindninjastudios.com. And don't forget to check out my other show called No Story Left Behind. You can find the show on its own feed wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And you can also find the show on Facebook and Instagram at No Story Left Behind Podcast. Thank you again, everyone, and we will catch you next time.